So, good evening, everybody. From where I am today, this evening. So, I've been talking about Barack Obama over the past few days, and I mean, it's been wild, right? If you've missed my videos, you should go check me out on TikTok because you've missed quite a lot. So, today I'm going to be talking about something he spoke about in his book, The Audacity of Hope, called Filibuster. Okay, and you might be wondering, just as I did the first time I saw it, what filibuster is, especially if you're not a United States citizen. So basically, it's a legislative tool used by members of the Senate to stall a particular bill from moving forward, right? So let's say a particular bill is supposed to be discussed upon, and somebody will stand up and provoke the filibuster, literally, such that that bill will not move for a series of hours until that thing has been deliberated upon, and this leads to sluggishness in the legislative process. Now, according to Obama, right, he said that the filibuster is not contained in the Constitution. In other words, it's easy to imply in legal terms that the filibuster is more or less a customary law kind of thing, because the only time where it was adopted, or when it started being adopted, was at the first Congress in the United States, and ever since then it has become a practice. And Barack Obama even made reference to President George Bush having issues with the filibuster, where he nominated about 200 members of the judiciary, and out of those 200 members, 10 of them were stalled because of the filibuster and the legislative process that has to go through. The only way to overturn a filibuster is by what we call a cloture. Right? I hope I've been able to make sense of this, because I think it's quite difficult to understand, especially if you haven't read the book and if you're not heard of it before. But basically, cloture is where a majority of members of the Senate decide that filibuster should end, right? That process should end, and they should move to the next agenda. So literally, 3/5 of members of the Senate can decide that the filibuster should end, and that's about 60 of them. But just note this important thing, because you don't know when you need it as an information: filibuster and cloture. All right, filibuster stalls a legislative process, basically most likely a bill, right, from being passed, and cloture is like the remedy that says this has to end. Okay, I hope you guys have learned something today. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys.